Hello, and welcome again. Here we are. I'm here today with Federico Brugnoli, founder and sole director of Spin 360. Federico has always worked as an entrepreneur in the field of advanced services for sustainability and industry innovation. So without explaining what all that means and what Federico does, as always, I like for my interview to be a part of the dismantling who he is and about his own personal career path. So the first question I always like is to discuss how did this evolve for you, how this career path actually happened, perhaps at a time where sustainability wasn't a common word or even an expression, if I may say so.
Well, Adrian, it surely wasn't. I started studying environmental sciences and technologies in 1992. At that time, I think nobody was actually thinking about sustainability the way we think about it today. But I was fond of nature. I am a skier, I'm a diver, so I like to be either very high or very low. I don't like to be at the key level. Okay. But, my idol and I was a fan of Jacques Cousteau. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I love Jacques Cousteau.
Okay, so I was a super fan of Jacques Cousteau, and I wanted to become a video maker as he was and a documentarist. So I started studying environmental sciences for that reason. But then among my passions, I've always been, unfortunately, I am not anymore a backpacker. So I won a scholarship issued by the Italian tanning industry to carry out some environmental analysis of the tanning process. So this is how I started. I actually started during my thesis to work on fashion and sustainability. And then I realized there was a lot to do in this field. And
in 92, we couldn't even imagine what there was to do back in 92.
No, 92, I started the university. That was 97 when I finished years after. But still, I mean, if you remember, if you can imagine that the first standard issued on environmental management was on 96. So I worked on the first standard in fashion and sustainability. Then I just fell in love with it. When you have recognized that there is a lot to do, then you just simply don't leave the field.
Excellent. I think we can start to begin to hear your passion there about this subject, which is so essential. And I think what we find now with the subject of circular economy, sustainability in all areas is that the young generation are extremely passionate by instinct for this subject. So in many ways, we're often talking to the converted, I think. But I want to go back to maybe a personal point for me, which is to distinguish that fashion is not what it's all about. It's all areas about all parts of the industry. And often we get, it annoys me when we get confused between what is the apparel industry and what is fashion. 99% of the world doesn't wear fashion, they wear apparel, they wear clothing. The word fashion has been put onto everything. And from my point of view, again, there is a big difference between a t-shirt that sells for €5 and €500 because the issues are different and therefore the solutions are different. I don't know how you feel about that particular topic.
I had another webinar yesterday with Academic Memo, and we spoke more or less about the same thing. There is one important point, Adrian, to be discussed. That is to say, my personal opinion is that in this last period, the fashion world, and in particular luxury, is following is trying to mimic and copy the apparel business model.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that this kind of distinction doesn't take place so much anymore. The difference in cost between a €5 t-shirt and a 500 t-shirt is mainly due to the different cost structures of the companies that are selling these t-shirts. So if you have a net purchase cost for a t-shirt or or even an accessory or a pair of shoes. And then on top of that, you add 800% in renting of retails and communication and promotion and so on and so forth. Then you get to these 500 euros. But it is not often the case that the quality of the two products is so different, unfortunately. But what I don't like about the apparel, or I would call it the fast fashion business model, is the tendency to overproduction. Why? Because in order to keep the costs so low, they need to engage with their suppliers and provide them with a stable and abundant, let's say, number of orders per year. And then they produce goods that are then sold for 10 euros, 12 euros, 15 euros for a t-shirt. And the consumer who's buying this t-shirt is giving them the importance of 15 euros or 10 euros. That is to say that this t-shirt is going to be used, I don't know, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Then it's going to start being in the cupboard for some months. Then it's going to be wasted. And we have the world that is full of warehouses that are full of used clothes that nobody knows what to do with them. So this is the reason why when I speak about a business model that can be profitable and in which fashion should come back to distinguish itself from apparel or let's say luxury from fast fashion, is the evolution from what I call from overproduction to quality and care. Quality, care, durability. These are values that in the products are probably not so much there anymore, but I think that they should go back, and we should start considering again the products for their durability, not only for the fact that we use the Saturday afternoon to go to a shopping mall and buy here and there just to feel a little bit better when we go back home.
Yeah. I mean, when I talk to students about this, I say, obviously, I have no right to say, don't go out and buy your fast fashion or your apparel. It's not my right to say that. But just think about how many times do you actually wear it. And if you start actually even writing it down, I've done this, and I've realized when I write things down and say, I remember buying this plain black t-shirt, which I wear all the time, and I know I'll wear it maybe 100 times. And then I often keep things and I'll try and recycle or upcycle and remake things because I'm getting into that. I have to do it. So I think it's about educating people to also think about exactly what you said. If you throw things away or you discard them or they're ruined after 2 or 3 times wearing it, that's not the way to go. If you can give that item some appreciation as you would with fashion, we don't throw our fashion away. Why should we throw any apparel away? And if you give it that kind of context of appreciation, I think that's going some way towards a solution.
Well, just a few more words on this topic because you know I care about it so much.
Yeah.
So I was preparing a presentation some time ago for a big trade show in footwear, and I went on Amazon, and I took a picture. And I presented this slide in which I had a pair of shoes and a Big Mac menu. So I told the audience it is the first time in history in which a pair of shoes costs less than a Big Mac menu. So first consideration, how is this pair of shoes being made? Which kind of materials have been used? For which kind of consumers? I mean, can we buy a pair of leather shoes for $8.99? What are we buying? And from whom are we buying? So these are all questions that I start and I keep on asking myself. This is also related to the price difference. If I buy a piece of whatever and I pay 500 euros, and I'm fond of shoes. I have more shoes than they have.
You're talking to the converted here. Don't you ask me about my shoes.
Okay, so I can spend 1,000 euros for a pair of shoes, but I know that I'm gonna wear these shoes for 20 years, and they're gonna be more beautiful over time. So it's also a concept of even for luxury and fashion, to go back on the essence of things: materials, craftsmanship, manufacturing, environmental aspects, social aspects. These are the values that I do really care about.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned shoes. The only thing I really spoiled myself on during the whole lockdown was actually shoes. But today I'm actually wearing a pair of Rick Owens that I bought, Rick Owen boots. I think the first pair I bought over 20 years ago. And they, as you say, they look better with time. If you buy the right things, they age well, like hopefully we do, and work well with us. So invest well and buy well, and they do last you a long time. And shoes should last a long time. It shouldn't be once or twice. And then we also begin to worry about its leather and the animal. And if that animal costs so little to produce that leather, that starts to get very worrying. Even if we're not vegetarian, it's still going to really deeply worry us what is going to happen.
Of course. But you see, Eden, well, maybe I know we have a question on innovation and research that maybe...
That's the next question, so go ahead. Let's just roll on.
No, well, over the years, probably a lot of people don't know that there is a company in the United States. It's called Modern Meadow. They are working on the production of a leather-like material using bacteria to produce the proteins that then are generated with leather. So I maybe was too early, because in 2004, I deposited the first worldwide patent on that kind of technology, but it was far too early. So there is really a rush on the Netherlands. They produce soft material with using mushrooms and mycelium.
Wow.
And they look very good. They even smell good, but you rather want to eat them.
If you like mushrooms.
Exactly. But just to go back on the topic I was mentioning before, all these R&D pathways and these very interesting possibilities that are given by biotechs, for example, why are they having so much success? Because there is a perceived need of substituting existing material. You know, I've been working with the leather for a long, long time, and I got to know them very well. I know tanneries and customers of tanneries all over the world, from China to Brazil, whatsoever. And there is a key point. Either someone is vegetarian or not. There is still a big portion of people worldwide who eats meat. There is an increasing proportion of people that is stopping to eat meat in a very small community around the world. Very influential, but very small. So the higher end of the, let's say, social whatsoever pyramid, if it exists, I don't believe so. But there is at the same time a very big proportion of people who wants to eat meat. The number of slaughtering of animals has been increasing in the past years. Okay, even if on social media we see the veganism that is growing very much. So there is an existing material that is coming from an industry that is based on human consumption for food, and is actually upcycling or recycling a byproduct of that industry. Are we sure there is so much need to substitute it? I am just asking questions because, you know, Adrian, our work has been based on science for such a long time, and we know almost everything. So to produce bio-generated materials, you need substances that are deriving from plants. So are we speaking about a model in which we stop, for example, using land to cultivate food, and instead we use land apart from the natural fibers to cultivate other substances that then are becoming the same material that we have available today? So it's a kind of controversial approach that has to find a balance, of course.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to take decades of that conversation to continue. And maybe we'll just be dust when it does get sorted out. We won't be around to discuss it any longer, but at least we're discussing it and we're bringing it to the forefront. So what other things do you find it particularly exciting in research at the moment? I mean, I know something about the biochemistry of creating these enzymes that create fake leather. Is there anything else that's really exciting at the moment?
Well, there is a specific pathway of research that we're carrying out internally. We call it life cycle management. That is to say, I don't know if the audience is familiar with the discipline of life cycle assessment. The life cycle assessment is a discipline that is based on science and that allows to assess the environmental impact of all the life cycle phases of a product. So we are putting this technique to the extreme, and we are enabling some kind of software to simulate impacts of decisions on, let's say, the global impact according to different decisions taken by different companies. So we are basically helping them to change the way they produce goods, to change the way they propose goods. And also we are working on a concept that I love, that I call it environmental depreciation.
What is that again?
Environmental depreciation.
Depreciation, okay.
Yeah, okay, it's kind of simple to explain. Let's say that to produce this pen, I have produced 100 kilos of CO2. Okay, but then if I use this pen for 100 years, is 1 kilo per year. Okay,
yeah.
So it has to do with the impacts, but also the lifespan and the life cycle of the product as such, how much it is used. And we go back to the topic of durability. No, this is one. The second point. The third one, I think you know it already. We are very interested also to apply innovation in upcycling of existing products that are returned from the market. We are doing with the academia a super beautiful project in which the students have been very good in identifying solutions for creation of new objects coming from accessories that are coming back from a super famous luxury brand into their warehouses.
Yeah, so from Paris, but we can't mention.
Yeah, from Paris, but we cannot mention. So the next challenge there is R&D and innovation, and it has to do with technology. So I have another company that you don't know, but I am trying to support them in identifying collaborative robots that can disassemble these products.
Wow.
And the second part of the innovation is linked with the new business model. What are we going to do with these objects? What are we going to do with the materials that are coming from the disassembling or the upcycling of luxury goods?
Excellent. I think it's really exciting, the whole idea of actually designing with disassembling in mind. So we should be designing with the idea that in the future it will have to be taken to pieces and redesigned again. Actually, I remember that as a child growing up, and I would ask my mother, what does the Queen do with all her clothes? And I remember being told, oh, everything's taken apart and remade again. So it's actually nothing terribly new. We've all done that once upon a time in history. We always took clothes apart and remade them. It's just we started to stop designing that process in with the product. And so we maybe need to go back to that.
Designers have enormous power. Future designers have an enormous power on the overall sustainability of fashion. I always say thinking is more powerful than doing. So if products will be conceived to be sustainable, disassemblable, and whatsoever, the things will change. And we have, and this is the power of the idea, that with a limited set of people may have an enormous impact on a global supply chain.
Yeah. And interesting you said designer, because I'm really interested in the idea that it's beyond the designer. We need to create those new figures that go beyond just the designer thinking, I'm going to create something sustainable. So what would you say are the new, because we're here talking about careers, the new professions and the career paths that industry is now looking for beyond the design sensibility? What are the figures that are making the changes for better?
Well, Adrian, we have debated a lot on this topic, and there are two things. First of all, starting from brands, retailers, and coming back in the supply chain, all their suppliers are now hiring so-called CSR or sustainability managers. But this is not the only profession that will be evolving. And it is not the only purpose for which we are creating and launching the master here in Milan. The other purposes are that whichever profession someone wants to start to be a manager, even top level manager in the fashion industry, someone should have a basic understanding and an advanced understanding of what sustainability is. Sustainability is not going to be one topic that is separated from the other. It's going to be embedded in the overall strategies of the company. So whenever we thought of which could be our targets in the master, we're speaking about, of course, also someone that is coming from a design fashion school and that wants to keep on being a designer. Why not? Because at the end of the day, we're teaching sustainability, but also business models, but also history of fashion and so on and so forth. Merchandise. People in merchandise, in the definition of the new collections or whatsoever, to define a product, you should understand what it means to have a sustainable production managers, supply chain managers. These are figures and professions that will be more and more required, because just to give you an example on this last topic on the supply chain manager. When back in time, unfortunately, probably only you and me and a few others were present in the workplace at that time. Whenever someone was buying a piece, an article, an accessory, the documents and the information that were following the product were how many pieces, unitary price, delivery time. And with an invoice, you had done everything. Now, if you want to sell whichever, just to go back on materials, a material to a brand, you have to do an audit, social compliance, environmental compliance, life cycle assessment, chemical safety, environmental assessments, and so on and so forth. So the amount of information and numbers that are following the products is now exploding. This is why companies are hiring so-called supply chain managers that are managing compliance and improvement of performances of supply chains. So our approach is both horizontal and vertical, meaning that we give a horizontal view of the most important topics on this big again topic of sustainability, but we also go vertical in projects, analyzing specifically some key business cases and problems to be solved.
That's really interesting. I think just to imagine what the future is going to be like with these new people in place, the new career opportunities, and how in themselves will evolve. I mean, it would be great if they just disappeared, that it was a natural process that they became the managers anyway, because without sustainability, we won't have a future. So, but I think it's going to take many, many years before that figure actually disappears, because there's so much work to do. We're only discovering what the options are at the moment. I think there's probably even more research needs to be done. What are those possibilities? There's another area I'm interested in, and that's the communication, both in fashion and apparel industries, and the greenwashing, as we call it. You can't get away from this, because if the public don't know about the issues we're discussing and the values that are incorporated into the design, we can't make progress. But at the same time, some companies are using this as a sale tool. But it's how can we cope with this?
Well, Adrian, first of all, my personal consideration is that 95% of consumers don't understand exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sustainability is growing in importance because it is also linked with reputational risks. But is mainly driven by brands at the moment. And those who are saying that consumers are driving change, I don't agree with them.
Yeah.
Consumers are still linked, very much linked with the key elements of a product: price, quality, and brand. The satisfaction in purchase, I would say. Having said so, it is true that some companies are using sustainability or whichever ethical, responsible attitude as a communication tool. But they have to be very careful, because communication and sustainability for a company has to do with Icarus. I think you know who Icarus was. Now he built a pair of wings of wax, and he was trying to go to the sun. So the higher you fly, the harder you fall. It means that you set up all your communication on sustainability, and then as a company you are found guilty of non-sustainable practices, then your reputation is destroyed.
Yeah.
So greenwashing is a bad thing. Greenwashing is to be avoided. I always say sustainability does not have anything to do with communication. Nothing. It's based on science. Then some topics can be used, but it's better for whichever company to act without communicating, because consumers are assuming that all companies are sustainable. Then there is no need to communicate too much. And if you do, then you can have some problems, such as big retail brands that are creating a specific product line that is sustainable. And then some consumers are starting asking, yeah, but if you call that sustainable and it represents 3% of your production, what about the remaining 97%?
Yeah.
Sustainable or not? You understand? So it's a kind of very tricky question on communication and sustainability. I always encourage companies to act and to speak after having acted, and very carefully.
Okay, so that's actually quite big news to me, because I know a lot of the luxury brands are placing the communication of sustainability perhaps even above the sustainability itself. They want to be seen and heard to be sustainable, but you're actually saying be quiet about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Is that your point?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I quite like that. What about certification? I know something about certification, but do you think this is a solution for us?
Well, Arden, you should consult a website that is called ecolabelindex.org.
Okay.
And you will find that there are 584 different certifications on whatsoever, ecolabels, social labels, and so on.
Yeah.
So there is not a universal certification on sustainability. There is, on the other hand, there is a proliferation of small, I would say, labels or marks or certification systems, because they see a business opportunity there. I somehow still believe in certification, but I rather believe on the goodwill and the importance of giving proper resources by board of directors rather than by buying a certification.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I have one friend who works in this part of the industry, but he comes from a history of not so much certification, but compliance and understanding factories. I was very fortunate. He took me to a factory in Bangladesh to see how they worked. And it was a huge positive surprise, and literally how they were working, doing things I could never imagine, to make sure the working staff also had a really good lifestyle. Because money isn't a solution for a lot of people, especially if you're a female working in Bangladesh. It could be at a disadvantage to get paid more. It'll just disappear from you. So I think having these communication and education can be so important. So we get these stories out. So it's not just simply buy cotton and it's made expensively. That's not the solution. We still need to make things in countries and to help to improve those situations too.
Absolutely. Having said so, just very quickly, the fashion industry has a great potential in terms of influencing change. So I speak from a very pragmatic point of view, but probably I am blind in seeing the bigger picture of creating a good pathway, even by claims that are not 100% supported by evidence, but in general terms, they are spreading the message. So everything that can contribute is kind of welcome.
Excellent. I always, at the moment, we've always come to this crystal ball moment where we say, So what's happening now in the world with the pandemic and what's going to happen afterwards that none of us really know. But what is your point of view, however, and how we're consuming now? And has the pandemic had an effect? And what will be the effect later when hopefully we're leaving this difficult period?
We have actually gone through this topic with a few important colleagues across Europe. The first thing is that the pandemic has been an accelerator. It has been an accelerator of trends that were already in place. You see now we have a webinar of where we were also discussing with other colleagues. We simply didn't stop doing things. We are just doing things differently. Then we had, I don't know how it was in the rest of the world, but in Italy I have been at home for 63 days in a row. And we are now, again, with some restrictions, which are going to be affecting Christmas and New Year's Eve. Yep. And everybody is a little bit sad. So there is a part of let's say, the trendsetter or the trend analysts that are saying that there will be a reduction in number of goods, both, but these goods will be better quality, maybe more expensive, because we all have a need of consolation now. And we want to make ourselves gifts that we can have for some time. This is something I believe it is true. Of course, it has to be balanced with the expenditure capacity of each of us, no? But depending upon our usual way of consuming, we will buy something that is normally more expensive than we did in the past. Then what is going to happen? I think that probably if I would be a shareholder of an airline company, I would be very worried, because personally, I think that one of the good things that came out of the pandemic is that it gave me the possibility to have a more balanced lifestyle between work time and family time. I have the possibility to study science and maths and geometry with my son that I always wanted to do, but I was always flying. So that in 2021 and 22, I will fly much less. I will keep on working. We are all used of this way of working. We will limit our relationship, personal relationship, for some focal time and focal points, quarterly probably. But I think the CO2 equivalent due to air transport will be very much reduced.
Yeah, I think that's something we've all realized. I'm for one person really missing my traveling and seeing my friends all over the world, and my colleagues, moreover, all over the world when I usually get to travel. But I can't see that I'll ever travel as much as I was doing in 2019, because we do this now. It's not the same, but it's easier on ourselves, and it's easier on the environment.
Look at it. In 2019, I took 144 planes.
Oh, okay, that was more than me. Yeah.
But I mean, and then I know it's not the same, but if you put everything on a balanced approach, well, it's good enough sometimes.
Yeah.
Because then we have time. Okay, I'm finished, and I'm gonna be with my son and my family, and so on and so on.
Yeah, I've justified all my flights I take by saying, well, I've not reproduced another human beings, and a human being is what's killing the planet. So if we have less human beings, we'll have a better planet. So maybe we need to have quality human beings and have a better planet.
Exactly. Very good.
So I don't know how we're going to do. We don't want to start that discussion. Otherwise, we'll start more detailed modification. Let's have the last question. So we'll give Denise a minute or two to look for the online questions. So if anybody would like to post a question for us now, so we can have the Q&A, and I'll just come up with our last question, which is about your own company, Spin 360. If you'd like to tell us about that and how it promotes new business models, which I think is really interesting, the whole idea the business model will change rather than just designing something for change.
Well, first of all, Spin is not just a spin. It's the acronym for what we call Sustainability, Progress, Innovation Network. So these are the key pillars on which we base our activity. And the reason why we wake up every day is that we are very keen in really working with companies who are contributing to some kind of change. So our sustainability part actually works very much on this life cycle assessment discipline, but we also work on what we call sustainable supply chains. So basically, we set up an objective and we work on an extended supply chain from chemistry to consumer, and we implement solutions. We really, I have done, I don't know how many kilometers I have done in factories, Edwin. So we have a very hands-on approach on improving things. Progress stands for the fact that we work also in, and the master is a part of it, in improving career pathways for people, being them probably young students who don't know yet where to go, and also people that are already working. And then on innovation, I told you about, and network stands for the fact that we are 8 people in SPIN, and we cannot do all the projects we do without having a worldwide connected network from US to China to also other continents, South America. So we really are very well connected, and we activate partners on different disciplines whenever we need them.
The collaboration seems to be really interesting. I mean, once upon a time we had competitors. Now we only have collaborators.
Exactly. There is no way to have all the disciplines that we would need and all the competencies that we would need in a company that is based in Milan. We really need to have good friends and partners. By the way, all our partners are also good friends at this stage.
Yeah, I totally agree. All my colleagues out there, some of which are listening, whether they're going to be Leslie in China or Carolina in Colombia, they're all my friends too.
Exactly.
It's a great thing. Our collaborations are our friends.
Yes.
Denise, are there any questions in from our friends out there?
Hi, Adrian. Yes,
Hi.
there are.
Okay.
So, let's start from the first one, which is for Federico. And the question is, what is the biggest misunderstanding about sustainability? What is sustainable and what is not according to you?
It's a huge question.
Okay, to start
Take
well.
a small bite.
Well, no, I really welcome this question, because one of the mantra that I have and one of the convictions that I have is that there needs to be a harmonized approach and a harmonized meaning of the word sustainability. So, well, the usual and academic definition is that sustainable is something that meets the interest of humans by 3 spheres. One is the economic development, the social development, and the environmental protection. So this says everything, but it says nothing. To me, something be sustainable needs to be product. Be sustainable needs to be produced, taking into consideration the people who are working on the product. It needs to be produced, taking into consideration the reasonable profit that the companies that are manufacturing and selling the product must have, because it is sad, but with no money we go nowhere. But it also needs to be produced taking into consideration, well, the easiest way of saying that is the need of future generations. But I don't want to be so how can I say, generic, no? But my provocation is again on companies and designers and the whole supply chain. Products need to be conceived, thought, be sustainable, disassemblable, recyclable, done by people who are working not for excessive working hours, living wage, and so on and so forth. We take as a reference an ISO standard that has 186 different requirements on things to be considered as sustainable. But this is just a starting point, and then innovation can lead also to future needs. It's very difficult to answer in a few minutes.
Yeah, it's just a few words, but the answer is a huge, complex situation.
Exactly.
Hence, that's why we've created this master's course together to start putting some of those answers together as well for students. Denise, do you have anything else for us?
Yes. Okay. So this other question is from Dinah, who asks, what are the downsides of sustainable fashion, if any?
Downsides?
Of sustainable fashion, yes. If you think there are.
Well, I don't think there are.
Okay, cool.
You think there's always going to be a plus and a minus, but it's not like there is really any option anymore. We don't really have much of an option other than to be more considered in whatever we're designing. Therefore, there's not much option to be anything else. I can't think of a downside either.
No.
It should be win-win.
The thing is that my hope is that we will be stopping using the word sustainable. The sooner the better. So what is the downsides of fashion? There are no, because if we stop using the word, it means that sustainability has become integrated in the business as such.
Yeah.
That is my only hope. And as you were saying, Adrian, there is no other way.
No, it's not an option. Okay, do we have options or questions now, Denise? Can you find us a nice one?
Okay, I have another one which could be a downside, but I don't know if you agree, because two people asked the same question. And so don't you think that sustainable fashion can be sometimes expensive? So
can I begin to answer this one? Fashion should have a price to it. If you're not paying decent money for a garment you're going to wear, don't wear it. Because someone's had to make that material, someone's had to make that garment, and it has to last for a long time. There needs to be quality in that. So the fact that you don't want to pay money for it, maybe you need to change your mindset moreover than change your clothes. Okay, Federico, I've said my bit. I'll be quiet now.
No, I didn't. I just love your answer. And then the second answer to that is, what does expensive mean? And so, what is expensive for a T-shirt? Probably the competition that is outside. We are in the city center of Milan. We are surrounded by malls that have T-shirts at 10 euros. Okay. So it's not that a T-shirt that is paid 50 euros or $50 is expensive. Probably the other one is too cheap.
Yeah. Also, when I'm traveling, I'm often getting things made. I'm buying fabrics and getting things made in India because I love making things when I'm traveling. And I don't know why people in some countries such as India buy fast fashion when they go to a local tailor and make something extraordinary, and it lasts them a long time, and they're paying somebody in their hometown to make something. I mean, I'm doing it, and I'm a fashion freak. That's what I love. But I love buying fabrics and getting things made, and that's my biggest thrill at the moment. And if people thought about just getting something made for yourself, keeping local industries also going, and not just those big factories.
Well, Adam, I don't wear shirts that much anymore.
What's a shirt?
Exactly, because I'm getting closer and closer to my 50s, so I'm getting younger, you know.
Really?
You know.
Okay, let's not talk about age.
Yeah, no, but jokes apart. So whenever I was thinking about a formal dress or a shirt here in Milano, we have tailors, and I pay a full dress, 3 pieces with a shirt that has my name and surname, that is done with super best fabrics, that last for ages. They do 2 pairs of trousers per piece.
Yeah.
I got everything I want, and I paid less than a half than buying a super whatever branded piece of things that have been done elsewhere in the world, thousands of kilometers, and then going back to me, and I have to go to the tailor to make it suit. So it's really something that you really have to value what you buy and pay for what you value.
Yeah, and also I remember when I was living in Milan, I was still wearing shirts in those days. I was having my shirts made. Also, I found a great little company, but they also make new cuffs. So if the cuff or the collar wears out, they replace it.
Yes,
so
yes.
I mean, the only thing what's happened was my body grew so much. There was only so much they could replace. So we have to try and contain the growth of our bodies. But other than that, I have an archive of things that I buy that most people would call a wardrobe. I call it an archive. I have so much things, but I don't throw anything away. It all has a reuse, or you give it away, or hopefully maybe one day some of my things will go to a museum if the museum ever wants it. But it all has looking for different ways to buy and to enjoy fashion doesn't have to be the very predictable way, perhaps always.
I agree with you.
So Denise, any more questions?
Yes, okay. There are many coming up. So
Okay,
so let's start from, okay, I'm following the order so that I received. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the end line of what happens to clothing? Basically, where and how clothing ends up as used clothing. Everyone produces this waste. Okay, Neil. So your thoughts on the end line of what happens to clothing? What do you think?
Do you want to take that one first and I'll join in, Federico?
Well, I was asking the question to you.
Okay. Let me just say, I don't actually throw things away. So the only things I'd be tempted to throw away, I'm sorry to say this, socks and underwear. I've recently found a great brand of underwear that suits my body. And since I've bought that underwear, I've not even thrown that away. It's just living forever. And socks, I can consume a lot of socks. So my undergarments are probably the only thing I'd actually consider throwing away. Other than that, I keep things. Remember what our grandparents used to do? They didn't buy cloths to wash the floor. They were highly specialized. It was your T-shirts that became something to wash in the house that was reused to be a duster. That's what our grandparents did. And things were always mended. Mending is becoming a cult hobby almost and an art form. Don't think about throwing things away. It should be taken out of our vocabulary. Federico?
Well, end of life is becoming a huge problem, also for the volumes that are mainly related to clothing and not fashion. Let's say to apparel, I would say. If we take the usual paradigm of end of life, that is a reduce, reuse, recycle. So the first thing is linked with what I was saying before. There should be a global understanding of the fact that we don't need so many goods. First of all, second is the reuse that Adrian has been speaking about already, and I also mentioned the fact that when I was a kid, I used to wear my cousin's clothes. And when you were the third brother, you used to wear the clothes of your first and second brother. So this also has to do with the quality of what was produced at that time and is produced now. But also there is an evolution. We speak about business model evolution. We had a case that we showcased actually in a conference we organized in New York, in which Carmen Gama, a very nice designer from Aileen Fisher, she presented a collection that is made by clothes that were returned to Aileen Fisher, and they were somehow redesigned based on the existing. So to me, the end of life is to be postponed as much as possible, how to say. And then there will be also some technological evolution that can allow to recycle very much the fibers that are generated by destroying the clothes.
Just one note, at Graduate Fashion Week, Graduate Fashion Foundation, of which I'm a trustee, hopefully we're going to have this year for all our member schools an upcycling project where it's the ideas of how you can re-upcycle and create something new out of something that maybe it wasn't even clothing. And I've seen some really, when I'm traveling, I've seen some extraordinary pieces of work created through upcycling. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see what happens if that becomes a global project, as I hope to launch with GFW soon. Denise, any more questions? We've still got a little bit of time.
Yes, we have a lot. Okay, so
Okay, well, we don't have that much time. We have to finish eventually, but okay.
yes. So, for example, let's say, okay, Phoebe has, like you said, the consumers are not educated enough on sustainability. Do you feel that there is a negative stigma towards sustainability?
Well, no, I just say that consumers are not educated on many things, not only on sustainability. That has to do with the proportion of people that are in general educated in the world, which is in terms of proportions and in terms of relative importance being reduced in the last years, and also the fact that there are a lot of misleading messages that are going around in the world very rapidly through social media and so on and so forth. So it is very difficult for anybody to keep being informed about any topic, but sustainability in particular. I mean, sustainability is not an easy task to go through, and the level of attention of consumers in general and everybody. Again, I am going to be probably killed from what I'm saying, but I'm one of the people who don't think that millennials and Generation Z will save the planet. I am not convinced of that.
Okay.
Because my son is a generation whatsoever. I don't even know the letter anymore, and he has an average attention time for whatever he goes through his cell phone of 18 seconds. So if you do like that, you're simply just looking at things. You're not understanding things. So I am kind of worried for the future, and I have this kind of pessimistic view on a vast majority of people that we can call consumer, but in general we're speaking about persons.
Okay, I mean, I like you being controversial. I think we need to have different voices to find different solutions. I kind of agree about what you're saying about the generation thing, but it's not just that young generation. The generation that I work with often, the 20 plus slightly, it's the leap generation. Exactly, they have an idea and they just skip all the research and development and just have from one spark to an idea. And really what we want is all those dismantling and research and going in depth into ideas. And this generation doesn't naturally want to do that because everything is so quick. And that quickness we have to start. It's not about speed, it's how you get there that counts. The elegance of how you arrive at something that becomes important, and that's all part of a sustainable concept.
Yeah, it's that sustainability cannot be done with a superficial approach, and speed leads to a superficial approach to things. And this is the biggest part of my worry.
Yeah, but we do talk about slow fashion, slow food, slow everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So slow is part of it.
But also slow fashion is being fast promoted on social media.
It's been fastly consumed.
Exactly.
Okay, yes, we have other ones. Okay, so Mikhail asks, which companies or designers do you think are good examples of sustainable business? For your opinion.
That's a bit tricky. You've got to select people now, but
no. I am not going to go into names. It's something that I never do. I can give examples of what can be done and what has to be done and what is being done and what doesn't have to be done. So what doesn't have to be done is to confuse sustainability with charity. And overall principles with projects and concrete approach. What can be done is to use the influence of super big brands to drive, even in such a fast changing environment, to drive at least the key concepts. So there are examples, but please allow me to be silent on names.
Yeah, the issue here is if we start pulling one or two names out, we're talking publicly, and then we could be damaging someone else who's doing something else amazing. So it's best that we don't mention names. We're not avoiding the question, but I think name calling either way doesn't help anyone. Denise, have you got a simple question without calling names? You can mention who sent tell me who's the question from.
Yeah, if you want, okay. Okay, and okay, okay. Our question is simple. Okay, this one is from Varshini, who asks us, do you have to have a background in chemistry to learn a sustainable fashion? This should be a yes or a no, I think.
Well, somehow yes. No. Again, the sustainability topic is very broad. You can go from child labor avoidance or gender equality to hazardousness of chemical substances. So the spectrum is very broad. You cannot be a specialist in all these things, but you have to be able to relate and to interact with specialists. So a background in chemistry is not 100% required, even if to be able to understand what it means to have a carcinogenic substances or a toxic substances, it's really highly appreciated.
That's a really good answer. I think I think there isn't one area that isn't useful to this subject area.
Exactly.
Because everything contributes, human behavior to design sense, to chemistry, to biology. I don't know.
Business planning, Adrian.
Business planning is what it's about. Yeah. Okay, let's have the last question, Denise, because we're going up to an hour now. We've been chatting away for an hour, but we don't want to lose our public.
Okay, so the last one is from. Okay, I need to select. Okay, so it's okay. Okay, so Veronica asks us, do you think digital marketing can help sustainable growth?
Okay.
Well, it's like, I don't know, it's like speaking about how if oil can mix with water, because we are speaking about two different elements. I don't see them connected because sustainability is mainly about doing things, and digital marketing is about marketing things. So it's one of the ways of marketing things. So,
but couldn't it be that when we are researching what we're buying, we can read more about it, we can find out more about the product, and if that information was online, it's easy to read. Or if we were browsing in a store, where would you find all that information? You're going to stand there and read a ticket. If you're in the comfort of your own home and you are shopping online, there's more space and more opportunity to discover more about the project and its origins, perhaps.
Absolutely. It's some years ahead that we're speaking about, or there are many different ways of calling it, but the simplest to understand is the product sustainability passport, no?
Yeah.
Something that is providing information. Yeah, it is super useful, provided that the information are reliable and they're not greenwashing. And speaking about digital marketing, but also e-commerce, I came across a website of e-commerce in which there was a whole session on sustainable products with a green typing, no, sustainable. Again, it's for me that I'm so passionate and I've been working on this for so long. That doesn't mean so much, but in general, as I was saying before, everything that helps.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Federico. You've actually given us more to think about than answers. I think the conversation's just grown, as it will continue. So I look forward to seeing you in person in Milan and talking more about this. And,
it was really a pleasure for me. It's an hour. I thought it were 10 minutes we were speaking.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
That's a good sign, yes.
I'm also going to be teaching on your course. I'm going to be teaching fashion history from a sustainable point of view
very
on your
good,
course.
very good.
So I've got a lot to learn from you, still to put that into the course. So that's a bigger conversation. We're supposed to be having another webinar, hopefully next week, on costume design. That's still to be confirmed. So there's nothing to sign up for just yet, but we will be confirming that, I think, soon. Is there anything else we need to say, Denise?
For those who are interested in this Master in Sustainability, obviously you can write us and get more information about our website or request an informative interview with me, with Adrian. We're always here to help you. And obviously, for those who are writing their questions now, and since we don't have enough time to answer all, we can get back to you. Yes.
Just one note: the title of the course is Genius.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not actually called Genius. It's called Fashion, Sustainability, and Industry Evolution.
Yes.
So the whole idea, we are going to evolve into something better, and hopefully we'll evolve to a better world where we don't even need to say sustainability anymore, as you said.
Well, just one last thing that I would like to emphasize is that I am not jumping in this master because I needed something more to do because my agenda is rather full, but it's because my belief is that only fresh minds, young minds will bring us fresh ideas to look into these challenges of the future. So one key point of the master is that Adrian, we have these 3 projects which are very important in the evolution of the master. And the companies, we have some names. I don't know if we can publicly say a couple of names of companies that are joining, but Ferragamo, for example, is one of them. And they are looking for new ideas to develop their own sustainable business models. And these new ideas are exactly what we're trying to take out from fresh minds, such as the one of young people.
Okay, that's wonderful. Again, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you very much.
It's been really inspiring. And thank you, everybody who's watching. So my friends in China and Japan, you can go to sleep now and have a good lunch if you're in South America. Okay, talk again soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.